Hey everyone, friends, family, frenemies, whatever. I'm AJ. I wanted to make this video to share with you some information that I use in my home to help prevent the exposure to any kind of virus or bacteria that might come into my home. And the reason why this is so important to me is that I am considered somebody with a compromised immune system. I have a form of pancreatic cancer and I am undergoing chemotherapy treatment, as well as having a history of asthma and pneumonia and being a brittle diabetic, which means that I rely on an insulin pump and medication in order to function on behalf of the pancreas that I no longer have because of my cancer. So limiting access points for germs in my home has been something that was important to me for many years prior to this diagnosis. I would say that it became most relevant to me 11 years ago when my firstborn child was hospitalized with RSV and double lung pneumonia while also having been born prematurely. So this created a lot of issues with their lungs, and at some points we thought that perhaps they might have cystic fibrosis and having to go through a lot of tests, and it was really scary. At that point, I kind of really worked to doing my best to make sure that our home, we took off our shoes, we washed our hands when we came in, and we made sure that we had fairly decent hand washing routines. This was further, a concern for us as my father became sick. Talking more with my child, and I became pregnant. And the second child also was hospitalized because of RSV and pneumonia, all while under the age of 7 months. And so that became just another reason for me to practice good protocols in terms of hand washing and limiting the exposure to kind of points of access of germs in my home. So I wanted to share this information with you. I hope that it helps you to kind of build your own intentional routine and practice within your home that feels like it is an intentional, love based ritual and not something out of fear. One of the things that I truly believe for myself is that having some discernment and practices, as well as also not fearing being sick, helps me. If I was constantly worried about like something that would make me sick, I would never be able to enjoy my life. But having some kind of rituals that we implement in our home has helped me and the kids to really limit the amount of illness that comes in. Surprisingly, we haven't had anything major this year since being diagnosed and being on chemotherapy. I hope that remains true, even amid this whole, pandemic that is happening in the world. I, however, cannot control what happens in the end. That's beyond my hands, but I can participate and give space in my life and for preventing, exposure to things that can make me sick when possible. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about our routine and just some of the things that we do and that we implement in our home. The first that I think, aside from hand washing, and we know that hand washing through science is one of the most effective ways to prevent, exposing people to germs, as well as other, precautions. I'm not going to go too far into that. I just want to talk about what our kind of day-to-day practice might look like. So for me, I think the biggest consideration that I have is that first point of contact that you have with your home. When you come home from being out in public, you have an opportunity to limit the exposure in your home to any kind of germs that you may have picked up in your travels. So for us, we have what is kind of like a drop space. For some people, this might be a mudroom or where they hang their coats up. But really, this is the place where I strongly encourage people to put down any bags that they may have had with them. So backpacks, purses, shopping bags, to really just kind of put them down and kind of plan on them hanging out in that area instead of walking through the home with them. And the reason for that is that we carry bags with us everywhere. We may go into a bathroom with them. We may put them on the floor in the bathroom if there's not a good hook for them. We may put them on the floor at the restaurant. And so for me, knowing that there's a lot of bacteria on bags that go out into public, I don't want that coming into my house and going on my kitchen table. So I really strongly encourage people to leave things close to the door. That is true with also coats or sweaters. Really encouraging people, if they've worn a coat out into public or a sweater out into public, to kind of let that be their public coat and to have something that is like an inside coat for when they're at home, and not crossing those, so that you have something that you wear out into public and then you have something for at home that's warm and cozy, like this super awesome sweater. So also in this realm is your shoes. Okay, so shoes are pretty gross if you think about it. They go everywhere. Unlike your purse, you're probably not going to hang that up on a hook in the bathroom when you sit down to go to the bathroom in a public restroom, right? And part of me, my hands and my face are clean. I took a shower and I'm just itchy because I have dry skin. But I know that also this is bad protocol, and if I was out in public, I would not be touching my face. But I try to leave my shoes and my kids' shoes and ask people to leave their shoes by the door, because I don't want that walking through my house. Now, I also do make sure that as much as is realistically possible, that the kids and I kind of put the shoes through a wash cycle or a steam cycle in the washing machine on occasion. I believe that I have a higher risk of bringing things in as the primary parent and going into hospital settings. So I have made sure for myself that I purchased a pair of medical grade shoes that can go into the washing machine and be sterilized. I got those from Crocs. They are in no way my sponsor, but hey, if you want to hook me up, I'd love another pair of your clogs that are approved for hospitals, because those things are amazing. I can throw them in the washing machine and sterilize them, and they come out and they are perfect and they're comfy. They're kind of ugly, but they're, they work. So that's kind of like right when we walk in. Then before we put groceries away or pet the dog or grab a drink, we wash our hands. Usually. Now, this is especially true if I have somebody coming in the house to visit. It's like, wash your hands, please. My house, we walk into the kitchen. We have that drop zone right by the door, and then my kitchen sink. So it's pretty easy for people walking in. It feels less intrusive. Then, the other consideration, though, is say if my kids are coming home from school. Now, if they are going to hang out inside for a little bit, I tell them, go change your clothes. We make an assessment. How reasonable is it that they're going to go outside and play? Most days I send them out to play because they've been inside all day. But on days that maybe it's cold or it's rainy and it's just not an optimal day for them to go outside and play after school, I have them get right into the shower. They take their clothes off, they wash that school stuff off of them, and then they're in their like nice clean jammy jams. We get some nice awesome snuggles, and I don't have to worry about that exposure. But let's say that's not going to happen. Then I have them wash their hands. If they're going to go out to play, I send them right out. But if they're not, and taking a shower is not completely practical in that moment, say we have company over, I do encourage them to go and change their clothes if possible, but definitely have some restrictions. They can't climb into beds with their school clothes on, especially my bed, and that they really, can't be snuggling with their, like, Snuggies. Everyone has a nice little stuffy that they love. Let's not judge. And, encouraging them not to touch anything like that before bedtime, after they've had their showers or gotten cleaned up for the day. The other thing that I just, wanted to bring up was that also practicing this outward. And so if we go to someone's home, same thing. I encourage kids to wash their hands when we come in. I encourage them to take their clothes and their shoes off, especially if I notice that the family's practice is no shoes. Some people say, oh, don't worry about it. But I feel like, you know what? I'm going to worry about it because I care about you. The other thing that, I strongly encourage my kids and, myself in practice is that if a home has the option of a more guest like bathroom or washroom, that I encourage the kids to use that instead of, if they're playing with other kids, to go into the family bathroom. And the reason for that is that you're less likely to bring home any kind of bacteria, and also you're less likely to leave anything in a living space of the person that you're visiting. So, those are just some tips that we implement in our family. I will probably talk more about this if, there's any kind of response to this video and people like it. They're not intimidated by my poor paint job on the wall or my, poor use of, jammy muumuu and warmy sweater, and that, this is useful to you all. If that is true, then I will come back with more in depth in terms of, how to hand wash, for those of you who maybe just know kind of basic hand washing, talk to you a little bit about why we might hand wash in a certain way. Or maybe, I'll talk about the impacts of having just regular healthy practices and not waiting for an epidemic or pandemic, as it may be, to help you initiate that, and how having these good practices in place can help keep you and your community healthy at all times. So much love and appreciation for all of you, and I hope that you are staying well and connected and happy during this time. And, let's keep the conversation open.